Hello, everyone. My name is Matt. Thank you very much for being here. And before we start, I also wanted to thank the Animation Exchange team for having me here. It's a great honor, and I'm really excited to do this talk. And I wanted to talk about why gameplay animators should be more technical. Now, we're gonna go back to 2012. We're at my final exam at school. We just showed our playable game prototype, and one member of the jury asks, how long have you spent on the character controls? Now, I did not understand exactly what he meant, so we talked more after the jury, and I then discovered what gameplay animation was. Now, not being aware that you could choose to focus on this rather than, say, on cinematics, that would have been the very first turn I took while standing at the first crossroads of my career, so to speak. But that same person get me an internship in Ubisoft Paris, and that would have been the start of my career. And then when I look back, if it wasn't for that simple question, I would probably not stand where I am today. So thanks, John. One sentence that would summarize the talk today would be being a gameplay animator is more about creating gameplay than creating animations. Now, you might be wondering right now, who's this guy throwing some weird, controversial stuff to our faces? Well, I come from a programming background. This is what I studied first. I've always loved tech, and with programming, what was cool was that you could create things from scratch. But I quickly realized I was missing visuals, graphics. So I went back to school. I learned game development, specialized in animation, and like I've just explained, focused on gameplay animation. Like I said, I joined Ubisoft Paris. I was an intern first and then a junior, and I've worked on Ghost Recon Wildlands. Then I moved to Poland. I've helped the team on Dying Light 1. Then we worked on the expansion that was the following. Then I spent a couple of years working in the animation technology core team, creating the animation system. And then we started the production of Dying Light 2. I've been working on it ever since, and I'm currently the lead technical gameplay animator on this. Before we start the talk, let's do a quick overview of what the talk is about. So we'll start by analyzing what pattern the industry is mostly following when it comes to gameplay animation team structures, and then I will share some of my thoughts on this. Then we'll move on to explain what gameplay animation and gameplay is, and how you can go the extra mile, so to speak. Then we'll see how the future of game animation, the industry, could or will impact all this. And I will finally provide a way for you to start developing your technical proficiency. And one of the reasons I'm doing this talk has to do with how the industry usually works with gameplay animation. The most common gameplay team structure is having gameplay animators mostly animating and exporting animations, and then, depending on the studio, you would have either technical animators, gameplay programmers, or sometimes designers take over and take care of the tagging and the implementation of the animation logic, whether we're talking animation graphs, state machines, or scripts, and so on. Now, I don't think this is ideal, as an animation can be considered good and serving gameplay once it looks good and feels good in the game, not before. And I also think animators should be responsible for the entire process, meaning they should be here from A to Z, starting during mocap sessions, whether they direct them or they're just here, that's already really important, all the way to the implementation. Now, if I have to be a little bit more objective though, this is what you can gain from from having such a structure. You would most likely find more and more easily candidates for each role, as you have many really talented gameplay animators out there, as well as programmers, designers, or technical animators. You would also have more resources to focus on quality, so you would potentially reach higher quality faster. Now, these are the elements that this kind of structure impacts the most. You have less resources to create gameplay because your animators don't do this. They focus on animating. It takes longer to check a feature in game, to visualize it, and to check the effect. So to bring this from an idea on a paper onto something playable, because the interdependency between animators and programmers causes longer iteration loops. So it's harder for you and it takes longer to validate all the steps of your gameplay systems. You focus on creating animations, not on the game. And then finally, and to me this is probably the most crucial point, is that when you pass your work on to someone else, there's a huge risk, and it's to me almost a certainty, that you will lose the intention and the essence of one animation. But as I have observed the industry over the years, it has occurred to me that even though this is the typical team structure, there is a huge need for more technical profiles, meaning animators that are able to bring their own animations to the next level. Now, when it comes to job offers for gameplay animators, they're quite standard, and they almost always contain the same key elements that animators need to possess in their toolbox. Depending on the studio or the project, they might require candidates to have keyframe skills, to have experience in motion capture, expertise in one or more DCC software. Sometimes they will require you to have some knowledge in traditional arts, including the human figure and the body mechanics. Sometimes they would expect candidates to have some sort of experience with animation graphs or state machines, but most of the time, these would be found in the pluses or the preferred qualifications. And yet, every time studios will come across more technical, more complete profiles, they will fight to hire them. Why is this? Well, to me, this is because they're not fully aware yet that this is what they need and this is what they want, while knowing that this is extremely important. So this is a quite interesting and strange paradox that unfortunately can lead to a lot of confusion in candidates, especially younger ones. What do I need to do in order to get to start in the industry and to thrive? Now, luckily, I'm starting to see some job offers for technical gameplay animators, meaning that studios in the industry is slowly realizing the importance and the need of it. Studios like Naughty Dog, Ubisoft, Warner Bros. Lately, and Full Circle, which is a studio owned by Electronic Arts. Let's go back to fundamentals for a minute. So what exactly is gameplay animation? Well, first, we need to understand what gameplay is. Everyone has their own definition of it, and I'm perfectly fine with this because it means that it's intimate, and it should be. My definition goes the way a game plays and feels, the way you interact with the game, and even what you eventually end up feeling. Now, no matter what your own definition is, or even if you understand exactly what I have in mind, the key notion here is interaction. Every time your actions have an impact on how your character behaves and moves, and every time your character interacts with the story, and this is exactly what games are about, this is gameplay. Then the animations you see on screen are gameplay animations, and the people responsible for those are gameplay animators. So we, gameplay animators, are directly serving one of the main purpose of games, gameplay. So we're on the front line, and to fight, we should have specific weapons. The first one, to me, is the communication with design and code. You're the third dot of a triangle, code, animation, design, and together you will create the main gameplay system of a game. This is something you would do on a daily basis, and this is really the foundation of gameplay. Animating, of course, let's not forget, a huge chunk of the job is animation, so it's obvious you need to have those skills. Implementing, this is your ability to translate directly your animations you've been creating in your software onto a playable feature, a playable system in a game. Debugging, this is your ability to pinpoint every single problem that could be caused by your implementation. Not, I don't mean you've introduced some issues, but sometimes you've done something wrong and you need to fix this, and sometimes the problem resides somewhere else. So it requires some extra communication with other departments in order to just say, this is what's wrong, we should solve it, let's talk about how and with who. And the last one, which is really important as well, is your context awareness. So your understanding of how your each individual pieces, in our cases animations, will fit into bigger and bigger systems that will eventually create a game. So if you're interested in going further, technically speaking, it's important to start adopting what could be called a creative technical mindset. The idea behind it goes that to approach any feature, system, animation, even, with both creativity and technical knowledge. Now, it's good to remember that this is not a skill, it's a mindset. So it's a way to work, it's a way to think, basically. It will definitely help you with communication, with design and code. Why? Well, designers, creativity, great at it, and you have programmers, technicians, the tech side, and you would be great in both. So you become the perfect link, the perfect bridge between them two. And like we've seen before, that triangle is the foundation of gameplay. And being focused on developing your technical skills allows you to thrive really fast in the industry as you get to know more outside of your original field of expertise. And following tech trends, for example, and evolution makes that progression last over the years. Now the question is, can you develop your creative technical mindset? To my knowledge, schools do not prepare students to what gameplay animation really is. So if you want to go deeper, this will have to come from your own individual initiative, impulse. So here are a few tips to help you achieve that. Orient yourself towards problem solving. Creating systems is all about answering problems. How to do something, with what, with who, and this is also what debugging is about. You can as well follow tech trends, game tech news, and watch lectures. It's mostly for inspiration, but you have access to great content out there, and sometimes you will have great ideas to apply to your own systems, to your own games. You can always analyze and deconstruct animation systems while you play games. This is the first thing I do the first time I start a new game. I'm moving my character around. It's not really appealing to the eye if someone is watching, but I'm trying to understand how complex the main character locomotion system is. For example, I'm trying to see maybe they have different starts animation based on the stance. Left foot forward, right foot forward. Maybe they take this into account when the character comes to a stop. I want to see if, for example, is it code driven? Is it data driven? How complex are their layering system, and so on and so on. One thing you can do as well is to ask technicians, so mostly programmers and engineers. These guys think differently, and your ultimate goal is to think like them. So, ask them questions. Maybe ask them how they would solve problem A or problem B. Maybe ask them to tell you about their last prototype, the last feature they've been working on. Maybe ask for some feedback on your own ideas or on your own prototypes. And one last thing that I should recommend is to be curious about other departments. Knowing what it takes to design a character, model a character, rig it, to understand what it means to build a level, to write a quest, for example, and understanding how your personal work as well as your teams fits in all this and impact all this. It gives you perspective, and it makes you a better developer. You will start thinking big picture. Now, if you're still not fully convinced this is the way to go, there is one thing that I still have up my sleeve that would maybe convince you, and this is the probable future of game animation and what the industry is leaning towards. Now, this is already happening, but the tendency seems to be to improve on different elements, such as motion matching and neural networks, for example. So motion matching mostly for fidelity of locomotion. Neural networks for game animation can be used, for example, for contextual animations. We have that, what I call interactive animation, mostly to improve immersion and to ground characters to their world. So interactions between characters and an environment, for example. That's also something that helps blurring the line between gameplay and cinematics while being in full control. There's still a huge need to improve on AI navigation. That's something that has not evolved that much over the past years, and it's pretty tricky. AI behaviors are always analyzed and commented on, and making AIs look smart and believable has always been a great challenge. We see more and more the use of procedural and secondary animation, as in cloth, physics, muscle deformation, extremely technical. And generally speaking, the tendency, at least in AAA studios, of course, seems to be to improve on realism, on believability in general, and on player freedom, meaning I see that specific element, I can interact with it. Is that a dream, right? A goal in itself. So how does these topics impact our work? Well, to give you a concrete example, I remember the first time I saw the industry saw the results of motion matching. There were some discussions, whether it would mean the end of animators, basically. Engineers and some motion capture can handle everything for locomotion system. We don't need animators anymore. Well, this is not the end of it. Doesn't end the profession. It changes it. All of these topics are really extremely technical. So we need to hop on the train and adapt to something new, to be ready for what's to come. But there's a plus to it. This technology will help us save huge amounts of time on creating these systems. Working on AI locomotion or heat reaction systems. This is something that takes a lot of time. So if we can save on this, to improve, to have more time to improve on quality somewhere else, well, I'm sold. And if we can find a way, to work on solutions that prevent us to recreating everything from scratch each time we work on project, and to hopefully start, sharing knowledge in between projects and studios, that would be optimal, and that's really important to me. All right, so let's quickly summarize how everything is beneficial to you. So you're obviously still an animator. This is still the core of the job, and you will still animate a lot, but you will just start projecting your animations, and hopefully, ideally, so that they fit right away the system they will land into. Now, by increasing the number of elements you take part in building and creating, you leave a bigger footprint. So you're not just that cool animator that animated this, you're also that great guy who created that system. Similarly, and we talked about this, when you get to know more about more elements and more departments, you become better at creating games. Have in mind as well that the knowledge you gather when you work on graph, on animation trees, state machines, this is universal because it revolves around logic, and logic is universal. So adapting to yet another engine, maybe a proprietary system, because you've just moved studios, is more or less it more or less means that you have to know where to click in order to achieve what you want. So as a consequence, it's also transferable from project to project and even studio to studio. Also, that feeling you get when you finally see these animation working their magic, and everyone else around feels the same. Remember, this is a teamwork. That feeling is amazing. You would have to feel it for yourself and to experience it for yourself. But the feeling of reward is really great. Understanding how everyone works, and having a better idea of what it means to be in their shoes, it naturally improves the communication between you and them, especially with technicians. Something that is quite important as well is, with such a profile, you will never go unnoticed. These are extremely rare profiles, so it's a really great card to play to enter the industry, maybe more easily, and to thrive there very fast. Now, if you are working already and you feel that you could do more on the tech side, but for some reason you're not sure where to start, or maybe your studio is not really pushing for it, I don't see anything else but a great opportunity for you to step in. Whether a project or a studio will push or will put the accent on such element, will most likely come from the animation team. If you want your character to brush that branch tree away on their path, fight for it. Start a discussion with management, with design, with animation technology, and maybe during pre-production, prototype it. The best way for you to achieve and to obtain what you want is just to create a proof of concept and to prove it looks good and it fills the world and it works. But I'm also convinced animation systems and gameplay animation in general should be part of pre-production. And quite frankly, I'm not sure this is standard. I remember animation used to be a sub-department of art, and even if it is, gameplay animation, creating gameplay, as we said, is one of the most important thing while making games. So this is something you have to discuss, on day one, and gameplay animators should be involved. Now, I know it's a rather long process. Not everyone is on the same page, but we have to start somewhere. So if you have your own ideas, if you think the way I think, speak up, and hopefully it will start spreading. All right, time for some action now. One thing that I definitely want you to remember is that developing your technical skills is nothing overcomplicated and has never been easier, mostly thanks to the internet, of course. So start by downloading a free engine. You don't have many options. I'm thinking Unity or Unreal. I will recommend Unreal just because this is the closest to what you could come across if you're working in a studio that has their own animation technology, and also because Unreal is used by many studios out there. The next step is to start clicking around, understanding the basics, but focus on obviously what's of interest to us animators, meaning the animation system. There are thousands of great tutorials out there, including follow-alongs, so it's going to be really easy for you to start understanding all this. I have myself created a YouTube channel very recently, and I'm planning on doing tutorials with Unreal. So if you're interested, stay tuned, and maybe we'll see each other again very soon. Once you've understood the basics, start a prototype of your own. Create a start animation, a run, a loop, connect them, and start to see how it works, how everything works under the hood. Maybe you won't want to add some directional starts. Maybe you'll want to add a jump, an attack. Maybe you will want to work on a simple combo system. At some point, maybe just export a sprint animation and make it blend with your run based on your stick input, for example. One thing though, once you start, there's no going back. You will never want to go back to only animating. You will always want to, see the result in the game and have control over it. Always remember that you want to have something working first, something functioning, not something good looking, because gameplay is king. All right, that's all I had. Thank you very, very much for listening. If you want to stay in touch, any reasons really, if you want to go deeper into the topic, if you're interested in understanding a bit more, if you're interested in understanding more about gameplay animation and my personal job and profession, and so be it. If you want to start talking about Unreal or the implementation side of it, anything really, please do not hesitate. This is my personal email, as well as my personal website that's also acting as a blog. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find my YouTube channel under Matt Courtois, pretty easy. And same name for on the AnimState Discord server, which I would definitely recommend to visit. Tons of helpful channels, as well as a really amazing community of animators across the world. So definitely come by. Thank you once again, and I will now see you for some questions.